Have you ever felt like you're just being busy and you're not really being productive? It's just like all this activity, all this trying to keep up, doing all these things, but not being productive and not making progress in the areas of life that are most important to you. Have you ever felt like that? Well, if so, this episode's for you. Welcome to the Claim Your Day podcast. Here, it's all about taking full advantage of the time we have today and becoming intentional with our actions so we each can have the impact we want. If you want to stop drifting through life and start directing your life, and you're open to a short podcast from someone who's working at the exact same thing, then welcome. You're in the right place, my friend. Hi, I'm your host, Nick Maisie. To respect your time and so you can claim your day, let's dive right in. Well, hello, my friend, and welcome. Welcome to the Claim Your Day podcast. Glad you're here and joining in. Right in the middle of the series on making today count. Actually, this is the fourth episode in this series. It's all about making today count, making the most of your days today, because today is the day that you have. It's the only day that you have to be able to take action, to be able to live out your values, make the most of your life. As I mentioned in the very beginning, you were asking about, are you being productive or is it just busyness? Are you really making progress, or is it just scrambling with all this activity? Well, if you feel like you're scrambling with a lot of activity and you're not making progress, like I said at the beginning, this episode, it is for you. Let's think about Mark for a second. Think about Mark. Mark, he's constantly saying yes to the demands and the requests at his job. He says yes to his boss, his supervisor. He says yes all the time at work. But then he realized that he was neglecting his family time a little bit. It wasn't until he realized and started thinking about his values that he noticed how misaligned his actions were with what's really most important to him and his life, his values, and his family. And that's tough. Do you ever feel like you're just always busy, but maybe not busy at the right things? Like you're always doing stuff, but is it the things you should be doing that are most important? Well, the main message for today, I'll go ahead and give you a little spoiler. It's about prioritizing your day. It's about saying yes to the things that are aligned with your core values. It's about being intentional with the ways and the areas that you say yes, so that way you don't end up having to say no to something else that's actually more important to you. If you're intentional about your yeses and your nos, then they'll go in the right places. It's easy to start to feel overwhelmed, and it's going to happen. Feeling overwhelmed and unfulfilled if we're not being intentional with our priorities. See, when we misplace those priorities, well, that's when we're going to be all the busyness and not the productive. That's where we're going to have all the activity without the purpose, or no progress despite having done a whole lot of things. A lot of it comes down to is making sure that our priorities are not misplaced. There's also, a little bit of a value-based evaluation. Think about this for a second. How do you assess the tasks that you're doing to make sure that they are really aligned with your values? Are you thinking about what you're doing, and comparing your action to your core values? So are you misplacing those priorities? Are you comparing your actions to your values and making sure that that's how you're determining the value of your actions? And are you being intentional with the power of using no? Saying no. Saying no to the less important things to make space and make room for the things that truly do matter. Being intentional with where you say no, because if you say yes to something, you're automatically saying no to something different. So when you're intentional about your no's, then it's going to give you room. It's going to give you space to be able to say yes to the things that are most important to you, your life, your family, your values. So that's going to be some of the takeaways from this episode, is making sure that you're placing those priorities in the right place. That you're not misplacing them. And that's just going to lead to a lot of overwhelm and being unfulfilled, is if you're misplacing those priorities. Making sure use your values to evaluate your actions. And then also, use the power of no. The power of no, because when you say no to the things that are less important, it's going to give you that space to say yes to the things that are more important. So a lot of what we talk about here, it is all connected to values. Which, yes, your values might be a little bit different than mine. That's okay. But what each one of us does, our actions, the tasks that we do, really should align with our individual values. When you have your to-do list, when you have the list of things that you want to accomplish and things you want to do, are you considering your values and those beliefs that you have that are most important to you? Are you considering those when you're making your to-do list? Or is it just a whole bunch of things that you have to accomplish to check off in order to be able to get the things done you have to get done for the day? I want you to take a minute and just think about it. On a daily, day-by-day basis, what you do, how you spend your time, does it align with your values? Are your values reflected in what you accomplish each and every day? Well, if you want to make today count, if you want to claim your day, then you've got to, on a daily basis, live out those values. So a simple activity that we can do, a little activity for today's episode, is identify some of your top 3 values, your top 3 major values for your life right now. And then think about, after you've identified those, after you've written them down, then think about one task that you can do today that directly supports those 3 values, or one task for each value. There's a power of 3. 3 is a great way to break things down into 3 groups, 3 values, 3 tasks, 3 connections. So think just for a second, identify your top 3 values, and then identify a task that you could do for each one of those on your list that you could do today that supports those values. I love using the 3, identifying the 3 values, 3 tasks each day for daily things, make sure I'm making progress. I do my big 3. It's a simple way, so it's not too overwhelming. It's not too big. And when you only have those 3 tasks to support those 3 values, it's something that you can accomplish because you can focus on that without getting too distracted. It really does make a difference, and it makes it a whole lot easier for you to be able to stay on track with what you want, your values, your life, and to be intentional with that by breaking it down into just 3. So what are your top 3 values that you have for you to focus on right now? Identify those top 3 values, and then it's as simple as it is identify a task that you can be able to do today that directly support those values, help you live out those values. It's simple when you think about it. It's easy for today's to get sidetracked and to get out of being intentional. It is easy for that. At the same time, addressing what you need to address and being able to focus on your values, it is simple. Now, you notice I said simple and easy. Those are they're not the same thing. It's easy to get distracted, but it's simple for you to get back on track and to be intentional. It's easy for you to be influenced by all the demands for your time, attention, energy, and social pressures. But it's also simple for you to get back on track, identifying your values, identifying what you need to do in order to be able to make progress and live out those values. That's simple. It's not necessarily easy, but if we keep it simple, then it's going to make it so that you can do this. Now, if you want a little bit of help with this, make sure you go to nickmazy.com. I made it's your intentional day formula. It's a simple formula. It's a little worksheet, really, where it walks you through the steps of, identifying those values. What tasks can you do to help you live out those values? What you can do to help solidify those actions and make it something that's intentional that you can do on a regular basis, so you really can live in a way that's more aligned with your values. I'm never going to say that you have to have certain values of X, Y, and Z. No. But what I do want to do, the whole point of this podcast, as well as the worksheet that you can get at nickmazy.com, is to help you identify those values that are most important for you right now and be able to make progress on living them out. That's what it is. So just a little recap. Be intentional with the things that you say yes to. Be intentional with the things that you say no to. That way your yeses can be where you need them to be, and your no's will be in every other area, so that you're not accidentally or unintentionally saying yes to things that actually cause you to say no to your values. That's the last thing that we want for any of you. So be intentional with where you say yes, so that way you can live out your values, that you can be intentional with your actions and live your best life. You do have the power to choose where you invest your time, your energy, your attention, your resources. You have the power to choose to focus on your most important priorities and values. You can. Not saying it's going to be easy, but I'm telling you that you can do it. And as John Maxwell says, everything worthwhile is uphill all the way. And focusing on your true values and what's most important to you, your life and your family, what's most important to you, it is worth the effort to focus on those things, my friend, to put forth the effort and to see the results of a day lived well. You can do it. So again, go to nickmazy.com to get that resource to help you out. But today, I want you to prioritize one value-driven task. Prioritize one thing that you're going to do to drive yourself closer to living out your values today. That's it for today's episode. Here's to you, my friend. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. And as always, claim your day.